Hello everybody, this is Courtney with Fiber Fox Studios, and today I'm going to show you guys how to make this really pretty, it's actually one granny square that we're going to learn how to make today. This is what the square looks like. It is a floral lacy square that I really fell in love with, and I've come up with a very easy way. It's only 4 rows to complete this thing, and you can use it in a lot of different projects. I'm personally going to be putting out some videos showing how I'm going to be using mine, giving a little tutorial for a top of some sort, a poncho, or maybe even a sleeveless top for summer. But that will be done in a separate video. Today we're just going to concentrate on learning how to do this square, and believe me, it's so easy. I am using today a really pretty yarn that was gifted to me. So I am using this yarn Bee Sweet Divinity in the color Cobalt. It is 243 yards, and this is a medium size 4-weight yarn, as you can see right here on the label. Hopefully bring that a little closer to the camera, and it's 80% acrylic and 20% nylon. That is what I love so much about this. It's soft, it's sleek, but it has a really pretty drape because of that nylon in it. So if you happen to have on hand anything in your yarn stash that contains a little bit of nylon, that would be the perfect yarn to select for doing this really pretty square. I do think when I go to join these, I am going to have to do a little bit of wet blocking. You could probably get away with it without it, but just for ease for myself, I might do a wet block on these to bring them more like this and even, so I can join them really easily, but we'll see. So we're going to go ahead and get started on this. You can use, like I said, any size 4 yarn or any yarn that you want. This is going to be one of those things that you can completely decide whatever you have in your stash and work with any yarn in any size. So it'll just obviously change the size of your finished square. So I've been working using a 5mm hook, and that's what we're going to be basing this off of. But if you are changing your yarn to a different yarn, smaller or larger, you're going to want to definitely adjust that hook size. So we're going to get started by grabbing our hook, our yarn, and of course you're going to need a pair of scissors. This is a really simple project. Like I said, 4 rows, and we'll be on our way to finishing it. So we're going to get started by moving this out of the way, and we're going to bring in our yarn. And I like to do a slip knot. We're going to be starting with a chain of 12. So I like to bring my yarn around my fingers just like this with my tail over here, and then the working yarn is over here between my thumb and index. I pinch that and just move it over in between these 2 fingers. Then I pinch and pull back and pull on that tail to form my slip knot. So we're going to go ahead and get started by doing a chain of 12, and I'm going to walk you guys all the way through making this square, so there's not going to be any points where you have to pause and catch up to me. We'll meet back up or anything like that. We're going to do this entire square all together. So we're going to start by doing a chain of 12. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up a loop. We're going to chain again, so we're going to grab our yarn and pull up a loop, and we're going to do that a total of 12 times. So this is my 3rd. Here's my 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11, and 12. So a chain of 12, and then we're going to close this to form our ring. So we're going to come back to this very first chain that we made, and we're going to insert our hook, and we're going to go ahead and make sure that we're under both those loops. So we're going under the V. We're going to grab our yarn, and we're going to do a slip stitch. So we're going to pull it through that loop, and then we're going to go ahead and pull it through the loop that's on our hook, and that closes our ring. And we can go ahead and get started here. And I don't recommend working around your tails. I like to bind my tails in at the end and actually do knots. If you prefer to work in around your tails, you can feel free to do so. I'm going to go ahead and lower my camera down so you can see a little bit closer what I'm doing. So we're going to go ahead and get started on row 1. So to start row 1, what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to come back down into this chain that we created, the little ring, and we're just going to do a single crochet. So we're going to grab our yarn and pull up a loop. We're going to grab our yarn and pull through 2, and that finishes out our single crochet. And if you are an extremely tight crocheter, you do want to go up a hook size from anything that I'm recommending. Down below in the description, there's going to be some more info on this one. But now we're going to get started on row 1, and we're going to chain up 3, 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to come back down on this ring, and we're going to do 2 double crochets down here into this ring. So we're going to work directly around the ring doing our first double crochet. So we're going to pull up our loop. We're going to grab and pull through 2, and grab and pull through 2. And now we're going to need to do that a second time because we're doing 2 double crochets. So we're going to wrap our yarn again. We're going to come back down into this ring and work right around it, grabbing our yarn, pulling up a loop. We're going to pull through 2, and we're going to pull through 2. Now we're going to chain 1, and now we're going to go back down into the same ring, go back down that ring, and we're going to do 2 more double crochets. So there's our first one, and here is our second. And now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to come right back down here into this ring, and we're going to do a single crochet. So we're going to grab our yarn, pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2. And that forms our first side. So we're going to need a total of 4 sides. So we're going to repeat this 3 more times, but we're doing it all together. So now to start our next side, we are going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to wrap our yarn, and we're going to place 2 double crochets right down here into this ring. There's number 1, and here's number 2. Now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to go back down into that ring again and do 2 more double crochets. There's 1, and here is 2. Now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. Just like we did before, we're going to come back down into our ring, and we are going to do a single crochet. And that finishes off our second side. So your work is looking like this. Now we're going to go ahead and start side number 3. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. We're going to wrap our yarn around our hook and come back down into the same little ring that we formed and do 2 double crochets. So there's number 1, and here is number 2. And we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to go back down into that ring again, and we're going to do 2 more double crochets. And there's 1, and here is number 2. Now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to come back down the ring, and at this point you might have to kind of scoot your stitches over. And we're going to go ahead and do a single crochet right there around that ring to finish off that third side. Now we're going to do our last side. We're going to go ahead and chain up 3. We're going to wrap our yarn around our hook and do 2 double crochets right here into this ring. And I just lost that stitch. So we're going to do that again. We're going to do 2 double crochets. There's 1. And we're going to do number 2. And now we're going to chain 1. And we're going to go back down in, wrap our yarn, go back down in there, and we're going to do 2 more double crochets. There's 1, and here's number 2. And now this time, since we're ending off, we're not going to be doing our chain 3. We're going to wrap our yarn, we're going to do a double crochet. But what I like to do is I like to find that single crochet that we made when we started this row. I want to go down into that single crochet and pull up my loop from there and finish out my double crochet right there. So we're doing that double crochet so that we start up in the correct position without having to do any crazy slip stitches or anything. But this is what your work is going to be looking like after you finish row 1. Now we're going to go ahead and move up to row 2. So to move on, we're going to be doing a chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now we're going to be working over here on this chain 3 that we began this row with. And we want to count from the bottom up on that chain 3 and work into the third chain. So we're going to count 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to go right there into that third chain. and we're going to do a single crochet. Now we're going to chain 3 again, 1, 2, and 3. And this time we're going to come over here and we're going to work on this side. So we're going to find that chain 1 space. So we're going to be skipping these 2 double crochets, and right here is your chain 1 space. So we're going to do a double crochet, chain 5, double crochet all into this one chain 1 space. So there's my double crochet. Now I'm going to chain 5, 3, 4, and 5, and I'm going to come back down into that same exact chain 1 space and do my double crochet. So that's what you're going to have there. So now we're going to chain 3 again, 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to come down over here, skipping over these next 2 double crochets. And you'll find that you have the chain 3 right here at the end of that. So we're going to count up 1, 2, and 3. So we just want to go into the top of that 3rd chain. If I stretch that apart, maybe you guys can see it a little better. We're just working into the top of that 3rd chain, doing a single crochet. So this just formed one of our corners. So this is our corner right here. So now we're going to form a side. We're going to do a chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to come right here. If you look, we have this chain 3. So if you're looking at your work, over here's our other corner. But we're going to work on this chain 3 right here. We're going to count up 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to go into the top of that 3rd stitch. And we're going to do our single crochet right there. Now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. And again, just like we did our other corner, we're going to skip over. Let me get my tail out of the way for you guys. We're going to skip over these next 2 double crochets. And right here in the center of that is our chain 1 space. So we're going to work right there into this chain 1 space. We're going to do our double crochet, chain 5, double crochet all into that chain 1 space. So I'm doing my double crochet right there. Now I'm going to chain 5, 3, 4, and 5, and I'm going to come back down into the same chain 1 space, working right in there, doing a double crochet again. So now we're going to go ahead and chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to be skipping over these next 2 double crochets, and we're going to work right here on that chain 3 that ends out this little section. So we're going to work up from the bottom, 1, 2, and here's my 3rd. So I want to go into the top of that chain 3 each time, doing a single crochet. Now we've just completed out this corner. So we have formed our first corner, our side, and our other corner. So we've got to do this 2 more times. So now we're going to, since we're on the side here again, and you can tell because you have your this little V that's formed by the 2 chain 3s, we're going to do our chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to be working over here on this other chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to go into the top of that 3rd stitch and do our single crochet. And now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to be skipping over these next 2 double crochets and coming right there into our chain 1 space in between. So if you take a look, you can always find that chain 1. It's a little spaced out right there. We're going to do our double crochet, chain 5, double crochet, all right there into that same chain 1 space. So now I'm doing my chain 5, 4, and 5. And I'm going to go back down into that same exact space, and I'm going to do my other double crochet. Now I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to skip over these next 2 double crochets, and I'm going to work on this little chain 3 right here. So I'm going to count up 1, 2, and 3, making sure I get into the top of that 3rd chain to do my single crochet. And we've just completed out another side and corner. So now I'm here on a side again. So I've got this little V right here formed by those chain 3s I want to do my chain 5. It's about to say 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So chain 5, and then I'm going to come over here on this side of the chain 3. On this side's chain 3, and I'm going to work a single crochet into the top of that third chain. Now I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And just like I did before, I'm going to skip these next 2 double crochets and go right here into the chain 1 space, doing a double crochet, chain 5, double crochet, all into that 1 space. So 3, 4, and 5. And now I'm going to wrap my yarn. I'm going to come back down in that same exact space, and I'm going to do my other double crochet. And now I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to come down, and right here, I don't have a chain 3 to work into. So I'm just going to go into the top of this third double crochet. So just like we've been doing, I'm going to skip the first 2, 1, 2, skipping those and coming right here into this third. And I'm just going to grab my yarn and do a slip stitch right here to join on to close out round 2. So at the end of round 2, this is what your work is looking like. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and move on to round 3. And we need to move our yarn into, or our hook and yarn into the correct position. So we're going to do 3 slip stitches over here on this chain 5. Alright, so all we're going to need to do is identify the first 3 stitches of this chain 5, and we're going to slip stitch into each of those. So for me, when I turn my work like this, where I'm looking down at the top of the stitches where I can see the V's, I can see that right here is one of the spots. That's one of the chains I need to slip stitch into. So I'm just going to go ahead and do 1 slip stitch there. And I'm going to insert right here, and I'm not worrying about getting under 2 loops or anything. I'm just going in 1, and I'm grabbing my yarn and pulling it through, and then on through the loop that's on my hook. And I'm going to do that one more time. So I'm just slipping in, and I'm pulling through, and pulling on through the loop that's on my hook to do the slip stitch. So now I need to go ahead and do a chain 3 to start out this row. And so we're going to go 1, 2, and 3. And this chain 3 is counting as a double crochet for me. So now I need to go ahead and chain 5 as well. So I'm going to chain a total of 8 here, but we're counting 3, and then we're going to count 5. So here's number 4 and 5. So I've got a total of a chain of 8. But the first 3 is counting as a double crochet, and that'll make sense to you when we make our way back around on this row. So now I'm going to wrap my yarn, and I'm going to go right back into that same exact space that we came slip stitched into, and do a double crochet right there. So what this is counting as is a double crochet, chain 5, double crochet. So and this is right here on the side of our granny square. So now I'm going to want to move on over here to my corner. So I'm going to be skipping over this right here, this chain space. It's a chain 3. And I'm going to work right over here into my corner. So I want to chain 5 to move on over. So 3, 4, and 5. And now I'm going to jump over here. And this is a chain 5. So I'm going to skip over this chain 3. Skip over this double crochet and go right here into this chain 5 corner space, and I'm going to insert my hook and do a single crochet right there around that chain 5. Now I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and this time I'm going to work 3 double crochets right here into this chain 5 space. So I'm going to do 1, now 2, and 3. And now I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to come back down into that chain 5 space and do a single crochet. And now, because this is my corner, I need to repeat that one more time in the same chain 5 space. So I'm going to chain up 3 again, 1, 2, and 3. and I'm going to wrap my yarn, and I'm going to come back down in that same chain 5 here at the corner, and I'm going to do 3 double crochets. So there's 1, here's number 2, and here's number 3. And now I need to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And I need to come back down into the same exact chain 5 space and do a single crochet. So now I'm going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to come over here and we're going to work on our side. So we're going to come over into this chain 5 space. So we're going to skip over this chain 3. We're going to skip over this double crochet, and we're going to come right here into this chain 5, or that's actually a single crochet. We're going to come right here into this chain 5 space, and we are going to do a double crochet, chain 5, double crochet, all into this same space. So there's my double crochet. Now I'm going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm going to come back down into this chain 5 space and do another double crochet. So this is one corner and one side that we're finishing up. Now we're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to be coming over, skipping over this chain 3, skipping over that double crochet, and working here in this chain 5 corner. So we're going to come over into that corner space, and we're going to do a single crochet right there into that chain 5. If you take a look, we're making our next corner over here. So now we're going to chain up 3, 1, 2, and 3. And then just like we did on our other corner, we're going to come back down into that chain 5 and do 3 double crochets. There's 1. Here's number 2. And here's number 3. And now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to come back down into the same exact chain space, and we're going to do a single crochet. Now since this is our corner, we're going to scoot everything over, and we're going to do that all one more time into the same exact space. So I'm going to chain up 3 again. Now I'm going to do 3 double crochets. So I'm doing the 3 double crochets right here into the same exact chain space. There's 1. Here's 2. And here's number 3. All right there into that same corner. Now I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to come back down to that same chain 5 space and do a single crochet. So now we've just completed out the second corner. This is what your work is looking like. Alright, so now we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to be skipping over this chain 3 and coming right here into this chain 5 space. And we're going to do a double crochet, chain 5, double crochet, all right here. We're working on our side again. So we're doing it all right there into that same chain space. So I've got 4 and 5, so chain 5. Now we're going to come back down in that same space and do another double crochet. So now we're going to chain 5 to move on over to our next corner. So there's 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to be skipping over this chain right here. Obviously we're skipping this. We're skipping over this chain 3, coming right here, skipping over that double crochet into this chain 5 corner, and we're going to come right down into that corner, and we are going to do a single crochet. Now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to come right back down into that same exact space, and we're going to be doing our 3 double crochets. So there's 1, here's number 2, and here's number 3. Now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to come back down in that same chain 5 space and do a single crochet now. And because this is our corner, just like before, we're going to repeat all that into the same exact space. So we're going to chain up 3, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to come right back down into that same chain 5 space and do 3 more double crochets. There's 2. And here is number 3. Now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to come back down in that same exact space. So you can scoot stuff over if you need to. And we're going to do a single crochet around that chain to finish off of that corner. I know it's looking all kind of wonky probably, but believe me, it all works out great in the end. So we're going to move over to our next corner by doing a chain 5. So we're going to go 1, or over to our center, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to chain 5, and we're going to work on the side now. So we're going to go right here. We're going to skip over this chain 3 and come right here in this chain 5 space and do a double crochet, chain 5, double crochet, all right there into that same exact space. So let's go ahead and do our chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're going to come right back into that same exact space and do our double crochet. Now we're going to chain 5 to move over to our next corner, 3, 4, and 5. And so we're going to be skipping over this chain 3, skipping over this double crochet, and coming right here into that chain 5 space. And we're going to go ahead and go into that chain 5 space and do a single crochet. Now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to wrap our yarn, and just like we did before, we're going to do 3 double crochets right there into that chain 5 there at the corner. So there's 1, here's number 2, and here is number 3. Now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to go right back down here into this same space and do our single crochet. Now we're going to scoot those stitches over because we've got to squeeze a whole nother set in here. So we're going to chain 3. Now we're going to come right back into that same exact chain space, and we're going to do 3 more double crochets. So there's 1, here's number 2, and number 3. Now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to come right back down into that same space and do our single crochet to finish that off. Now we're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you have now finally made it to that chain 8 space. So we're now going to start down here from the bottom, and we're going to count 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to be slip stitching into the top of that 3rd chain. Just grab your yarn and pull it on through, and then pull it on through the loop that's on your hook, and that forms our double crochet, chain 5, double crochet that we've been doing all the rest of the way around. And let me go ahead and stretch this out a little bit. We're going to be doing row 4 is next, and it is our final row. So we're going to go ahead and get started on that momentarily, but this is what your work is going to be looking like. Just want to kind of give you guys a visual. I'm going to raise my camera up just a wee bit. So now we're going to be doing row 4. What we're going to be doing is essentially kind of squaring this off. So it's a really easy row, and this will be our last one, and then we will be finished with this really beautiful granny square. So we are going to go ahead and lower that camera back down so you guys can see. All right, so we're going to need to move over here into position in the center of this chain 5 space. So we've got our, we're going to be slip stitching over to the 3rd chain. So right here, kind of stretched out, you can see the very first chain. We're going to be slip stitching into that. So you're going to just grab your yarn, pulling that loop on up, and you're going to pull it on through the loop that's on your hook. And you're going to go here to the very next stitch and do the exact same thing. So you're just slip stitching on over. There's number 2, and one last time, and that moves us into the center of that chain 5 space. So now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to come right back around that whole chain 5, and we're going to do a single crochet right there. So try not to split your yarn. Now we're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to come over here. So now we're over here. This is our corner. We're going to come over here. So we're going to skip over this other chain 5, and we're going to concentrate right here on the edge of our corner. We're going to work on the top. We want to go into the top of this chain 3. So we're going to go 1, 2, and 3, and that's our top of our chain 3. So we want to insert our hook right there and go ahead and do a single crochet in the top of that chain 3. Now we want to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to skip over these next 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3, and we have another chain 3 right here at the end. So again, we're going to go into the top of that chain 3, so you can turn your work just a little bit. 1, 2, 3, and you can find the top of that chain 3 real easy, and we're going to do a single crochet. So now we have to work out our corner over here. So we've got to go ahead and do a chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to go right here. We've got another one of those little V's that is formed. So we're going to be working over here on this side on the chain 3. So we're going to 1, 2, and 3 to get into the top of that 3rd chain, and we're going to do a single crochet right there. So that is now, this chain 5 is now the peak of our corner. So now we're going to chain 3 again, 1, 2, and 3. And just like we did on the other side, we're going to skip over these 3 double crochet, and we're going to work in this chain 3 down here. So we want to go into the top of that chain 3, so you can go 1, 2, and 3 and find the top of that chain 3. And we're going to work in there doing a single crochet. So now you've just completed that corner. So now we're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to be skipping over this chain 5, skipping over this double crochet, and going right here into this chain 5 space, doing a single crochet. Now we're going to chain 5 again, finishing out this side. So we're going to chain 5, and we're going to move on over here to our next corner. So we're going to be skipping over all of this and going right here to this chain 3 at the end edge of our corner. So we're going to go 1, 2, and 3 into that 3rd chain. We want to make sure we work into the top of the 3rd chain each time, doing a single crochet. Now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to skip over these next 3 double crochet, and we're going to work into the top of the chain 3 again. So 1, 2, and 3, the top of the chain 3 for me, and we're going to do a single crochet. So now we have that little V again that's formed. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm talking about. We're going to go ahead and do a chain 5 because we're going to make our new corner peak. So chain 5, and then we're going to go over here to this side to the chain 3 and work into the top of the 3rd stitch. So 1, 2, 3, or top of the 3rd chain, and do a single crochet. And now we're going to work a chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And just like before, we're going to skip over these next 3 double crochet, and we're going to come right here to our chain that we have at the end, and we're going to work in the top of the 3rd. So 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to go right there into the top of that 3rd chain and do a single crochet. So now we need to work out our side. We're going to go ahead and do a chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to skip over this chain 5. We're going to skip over that double crochet. Then we're going to work right here into that chain 5 space that's right there in the center on our side. We're going to do a single crochet right there. So now we're going to chain 5 again so we can get over there to the other corner. So chain 5, skip over all of this, and we're going to find that we're over here at our corner. We want to work into the top of the 3rd chain that's right here on this side. So 1, 2, 3. We're going to go right there into the top of that 3rd, do a single crochet. Now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to skip over these next 3 double crochet, And we're now at the corner again, the very peak. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3 on that chain 3 that's right there and do our single crochet just like we did on our other corners. So do a single crochet right there. So now we're right here at that V. So we're going to go ahead and do a chain 5, forming our new peak of the corner. So now we're going to work on this side on the chain 3. So 1, 2, 3 chains. Go right there into the top of the third chain and do a single crochet. Now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. We're going to skip over these 3 double crochets again, finding our chain 3 right here, and we're going to work into the top of that third chain just like we have been doing a single crochet. So now we finished out another corner. So now we're going to move over here. We got to work on our side, even that out. So we're going to go ahead and do a chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to jump right over here. We're going to skip over that chain 5. We're going to skip over this double crochet, and we're going to go right there into that chain 5 space that's right here on the side and do our single crochet. Now we're going to chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to move over here to our next corner. So we're going to skip over all of this, and we're going to go right here to this chain 3 and go right there into the top of that and do our single crochet. Now we're going to chain 3 again. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to skip over these next 3 double crochets and find our chain right here at the end. And we're going to work again into the top of the chain, right there in the top of that chain 3, and do a single crochet. So now we're right here at our little V again for the corner. So we're going to go ahead and form our new peak by chaining 5, 4, and 5. So chain 5, and then we're going to go right here on the other side and find the top of the chain 3, 2, and 3, and we're going to do our single crochet right there on the top of that third chain. Now we're going to chain 3 again. 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to skip over these next 3 double crochets, finding our chain right here at the end. We want to make sure 1, 2, and 3. We're going to go into the top of that third chain. And we're going to do our single crochet right there. So now we've just finished out another corner. So now we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to come over here, and we have finally made it back around to where we began. So what we're going to do is we're going to find that single crochet where we had created and started, where we had slip stitched over. There's a single crochet right there. So we're going to skip over that chain 5. We're going to skip over this double crochet. We're going to skip over these stitches that we did the slip stitch in, and you'll see right here is a single crochet that you created when you first started this row. So we're just going to insert right into that, and we're going to do a slip stitch right here. So we're going to grab our yarn, pull it on through, and pull it on through the loop that's on our hook. And now I like to bind off by chaining up 2, and then I clip my yarn, leaving a little tail to work in. You can work it in, you can sew it in, or I personally, what I'm going to do is I will be working it in a few places and doing a chain 2 bind off. But I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what your work looks like when you are done. So let me raise my camera up just a wee little bit. So when you are all finished, you're going to have this really pretty, really nice granny square. It's got the floral effect to it. It's very lacy and open. You can use it on all different kinds of things. And you're going to have a right side, since we were working in a round, all the way around. You have a right side, and then you have a wrong side. And you can go ahead, this is how I like to feed in, or work in my tails, I should say, is I like to grab my hook and just find a little loop back here on the back side that I can grab up, and then I'm going to pull my tail on through. Of course, I'm a little tight right there, so we'll just go over here to this other side, find a little spot we can work into. So I'm going to grab that tail, and I like to draw it back here onto the back side, and then I chain up 2, and then I grab that tail, and I put the little knot that I formed right here in between my 2 fingers, and I go ahead and cinch that down. kind of lock that in place. And I do that a few more times on the back side. I just kind of feed that tail along wherever makes sense, and I do it a few more times. I'll do the same thing right down here. This is the tail from where we formed our chain 12 to start, so I'll do the same thing down here. I will just kind of work it around that chain. I'll scoot my stitches over, and you can go into part of the chain or you can work it around the chain. It's completely up to you. But I will go in there and I will pull up my loop, and then I will chain up 2, pull that on through, and then I will cinch it down just like that to make sure that tail's not going to come out later. So you can do that a few times back here. That's what I prefer to do, is a couple of times around the starting chain that we created. We formed our ring. I like to make sure that's super secure so it can never ever come apart, especially if you're going to be doing something like a garment or a market bag with these, something that's going to get a lot of, you know, tugging and wear and tear and use. You want to be extra careful that you secure all those tails, but you can sew it in whatever your preferred method is. And I like to do this as I'm going along so I don't have a ton of tails to work in later at the end or deal with at the end. So kind of keep that in mind, and then when I scoot things back, that will get buried under my stitches and I won't be able to see it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you have enjoyed this tutorial. In a few weeks I will put out some suggested projects and show you guys, do like quick little tutorials to show you how to use this in a number of ways. Doing a couple garments, I believe, is what I'm going to end up doing with mine. But you can, of course, use it for anything that you would like. And I kind of messed up that one. So let me show you a better looking one. So there we go. That's better. So you guys, thank you so much for watching. You can use this for any project, but I will have some project ideas. I'll do a tutorial for a few in a few weeks. So if you really like this, please give this a thumbs up. Please leave me a comment down below, and please make sure you're subscribed. Bye for now.